Hello and welcome to the 8th video of the Risk Blueprint. In this video, we'll cover bow tie analysis to analyze patterns of failures and patterns of success. I will present the bow tie, its benefit to analyze the risk profile of an organization and also identify useful key risk indicators, and we'll finish by a root cause analysis of success. Root cause analysis is about looking for risk drivers. Risk drivers, causal factors, risk factors, these are all synonymous of what causes an incident or what increases the risk of adverse consequences. When you follow the sequence of cause, events, impact, and you expand the different causes and indirect causes and the different impacts and indirect impacts, you end up with a bow tie analysis that has its name for obvious reasons. So this is a very powerful tool that I would like to share with you to highlight many of its benefits in the risk management framework of an organization. So at the center lies your risk events, the incidents, what has materialized. And then you go to the left-hand side of the graph, asking why, just like a 2-year-old, why cause number 1, and why cause number 2, and why, until you end up outside of the sphere of influence of your organization. So let's say we send credit contract to customers without the interest rates specified. Why? Because the program didn't work. Why? Because someone failed to check it. Why the program didn't work? Because we had a coding error. Why we had a coding error? Because we had a testing script missing. Or why we had a testing script missing? Or because, etc., etc. And so on the left-hand side, all your whys will highlight both the fundamental causes of the events, but also the failures of the preventative controls that you see here in this graph. And then if I continue on this example of sending the wrong information or missing information to the customer, when did we notice it? You know, is the customer sending us a letter? Is it the regulator picking it up? Is it some internal staff picking it up? And what are the consequences in terms of image, in terms of compensation to customer, in terms of invalidity of contracts? And so you have both the direct and the indirect impact with the remediations, with the explanations to affected stakeholders. And so on the right-hand side of the graph, you are in the sphere of detective controls first, and we looked at the different types of controls in a previous video. So how quickly do you detect an incident? And after that, what are the controls, the corrective controls in place or missing that has increased or decreased the different impacts? So from a simple graphical tool like that, you can squeeze out a lot of information, and that requires usually the collaborations of all the parties that are involved or know about this incident. Now, the obvious benefit of using a bow tie analysis are the lessons learned, are the deep analysis of these large incidents. And if you have followed us since the beginning, and if you've watched the video on incident reporting, you know that these large operational incidents or large near misses that occur in firms deserve a bow tie analysis to really highlight all the lessons learned needed from that incident. But there's another benefit, much more powerful, of a bow tie analysis, is the multiplicity of the bow tie that you can operate in a firm. My strong advice to you is that every time you have a large incident, not only you do a bow tie analysis for that particular incident, but after that you compare the different analysis to look for the recurrent causes, the so-called patterns of failures. Do you have repetitive causes, repetitive weaknesses, repetitive controls that fail more often than not, and that causes these large incidents? And that will give you an incredible insight of what are the strengths and the weaknesses of the organization in order to deploy systematic action plans rather than a response incident by incident. I also promise you or suspect that these repetitive causes that you will find, I promise you will find some in your organizations, are a good reflection on your risk culture and the way your business is set up and designed. Now, there's another large benefit of bow tie analysis is the insight it gives you in key risk indicators. You have the most leading preventive indicators around causes. There will be a full video dedicated to leading key risk indicators. The first one is the fact that KRIs, leading KRIs, are metrics of risk drivers. So once you understand the causes or highlight the cause in a bow tie analysis, finding a measurable proxy for this cause, a measurable proxy of tiredness of employees would be vacancies, long-term vacancies in small teams, or would be overtime over a cumulative period, for instance. That's one type of KRIs. You have KRIs around failed controls, failed preventative controls. If you have segregations of duties that are missing, or if you have a protection barrier, physical or digital, that is missing, that is a failed preventative control. It's also a leading key risk indicator. If you detect your incidents too late or not at all because your fire alarm is broken or because your reconciliation process has gaps, these are failed detective controls, but it's also a failure of detection and therefore a key risk indicators of expand and impact, because the longer you take time to detect an incident, the bigger the impact. And finally, you can have key risk indicators on your corrective controls as well. How well do you explain to affected third parties the causes and the ins and outs of an incident? How do you compensate your affected parties? How do you limit the spread of a misinformation, for instance, if that's your incident? So all the values, the measurement of the values of your corrective controls or the lack thereof are useful metrics to use as key risk indicators as well. So a lot of value for this tool, the bow tie analysis. Now, I would like to finish on a positive note, and we will have another video also on the value of risk management and the notion of positive risk management that is close to my heart, is learning not only from your mistakes, but also learning from your success. And we know that the general acceptance or the general acknowledgement is that you learn from your mistakes, and it's true. And there is something in psychology called the negativity bias that shows that our negative experience sadly imprint us more than our positive experience. But I'd say this negativity bias is a reason to even more pay attention to our success, to celebrate our success, but to also, from a risk management perspective, to analyze our success. How come that some incidents haven't led to a bad outcome, or how come that we've avoided incidents altogether? And so I would encourage you not only to do a bow tie analysis for large incidents, but also in a similar way, do bow tie analysis for successes or aborted losses. And so here in these slides, you have 4 real examples that I've worked on or in firms I've worked with that are around analysis of those success. One would be deadlines, terrible deadlines of immense amount of work that were met on time because incredible uplift and effort from staff. What was the causes of that? Other examples are firms who lived process disruptions, system interruptions that they managed to compensate with extra work, with good customer communication that led to no complaints at all for customers. Or simply projects that are rolled on time, IT transitioning, system migrations that are handled and executed without a glitch. Now, one of the curse of operational risk is that when everything goes well, you don't notice it. So my advice to you is, when something goes well, A, notice it, and B, analyze it. And to put my my mouth where my words are, I want to share with you a personal experience and a blog I wrote a couple of years ago on LinkedIn with in mind a particularly complex project I had to run professionally that I don't need to overshare here. But my personal lessons from success, professionally or otherwise, are these three. Have a plan and a backup plan, because the fact that, and which is pure risk management here, the fact that you have a plan B, and actually there's psychology evidence for that, relaxes you about the plan A. And the more relaxed you are, the better your cognitive ability and the more you can take risks and hopefully reap the return. So that's point number one. The second is complex matters cannot be handled alone, so seek advice, seek support, emotional support from your friends and family, and professional support to the best advisor in town. Now, sometimes these are your friends and your family, but not always. So whether it is to, I don't know, execute, I'm not going to overshare here, but execute a complex project personally or professionally, seek the best advisor in town. And finally, be vigilant and flexible. Again, vigilance is one of the core behaviors of good risk management. Be observant and pivot quickly. So be flexible on your time objectives or the content of your objective in order to quickly adapt to the situation. This is not different at all to the quick detective controls and the corrective controls to adapt to a new situation. Do you want to read more on the bow tie analysis? Check out my book, Operational Risk Management, Best Practices for the Financial Services Industry.